Am I the asshole for catfishing my underage sister on Tinder and humiliating her in order to teach her a lesson? Last week, I was using my younger sister's phone because mine was dead and I needed to call a friend. Dialing my friend's number, I saw a Tinder notification of some dude messaging her. Immediately, I asked her why she's on Tinder. She's 17, and she grabbed her phone back and said, "None of your business." I decided as her big brother that I wanted to have a little fun with this. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she's just swiping for fun, so I didn't want to go straight to ratting her out to our parents. To test if she was just using for fun, I decided I was going to make a Tinder profile of someone else and message her to see if she responds. I asked a good friend of mine from back in college, who happens to be a male model, if he'd mind if I used his pictures and explained the situation. He thought it would be hilarious and told me to go for it. I created the account, set my age to 22, set my swipe radius to a mile, and quickly found my sister's account. Her age was set to 19. Lie, she's still in high school. So I was definitely more suspicious of her now. I super liked, and less than an hour later she matched and messaged me. I decided to set up a date to a fancy restaurant downtown for Sunday afternoon and told her we
were talking about how me and my stepdad were doing the nasty and my mom walked in on us. Okay, so boom. I was 18 at the time and my stepdad was 40. My stepdad been with my mom for like 2 years and it's only the 3 of us in the house. My stepdad always treated me well and gave me lots of money. Every time my mom would tell me no, here comes my stepdad to the rescue, turning that to a yes. Me and my stepdad were alone together a lot and it would be very flirty between us. As the days went by, we got flirtier and flirtier and farther. It started off as flirting, then we cuddled, and then cuddling turned into making out. I literally couldn't wait till my mom goes to work so I could spend time with him. My mom didn't suspect a thing. When my mom was home, I barely talked to my stepdad and I always stayed in my room. At this point, me and my stepdad didn't do the nasty yet, but this night I was gonna make sure it happened. Cause I seen my stepdad kiss my mom goodbye and I was pissed. Once she left, I turned it up, like for part 2.
Story time about when my mom caught me doing it with my best friend.
I was 16 at the time, and there was this new boy that moved in across the street from us. He was super cute, and I noticed him right away. My parents were super strict. I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend or even any guy friends, and I knew right away that I wanted to at least become this guy's friend because he was so cute. So one day I told my mom, hey, why don't we take cookies or something to welcome the new neighbors in town? And my mom was like, that's a great idea. So we end up going over and we meet them. They're really nice. And the cute boy comes downstairs and he tells his mom he's going to go to Bible study. Well, when we get home, I tell my mom, hey, you know what? Maybe I should join a Bible study group too. And my mom was like, great idea. She even told me to go ask him about it since he had mentioned it. One day he's mowing the lawn, so I decided to go talk to him and ask him about the Bible study group. He actually ended up taking me there that same day and we had a fun class. Over the next few weeks, we became really, really good friends. Best friends. We told each other everything. But there was always attraction between.
Am I the asshole for catfishing my underage sister on Tinder and humiliating her in order to teach her a lesson? Last week, I was using my younger sister's phone because mine was dead and I needed to call a friend. Dialing my friend's number, I saw a Tinder notification of some dude messaging her. Immediately, I asked her why she's on Tinder. She's 17, and she grabbed her phone back and said, "None of your business." I decided as her big brother that I wanted to have a little fun with this. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she's just swiping for fun, so I didn't want to go straight to ratting her out to our parents. To test if she was just using for fun, I decided I was going to make a Tinder profile of someone else and message her to see if she responds. I asked a good friend of mine from back in college, who happens to be a male model, if he'd mind if I used his pictures and explained the situation. He thought it would be hilarious and told me to go for it. I created the account, set my age to 22, set my swipe radius to a mile, and quickly found my sister's account. Her age was set to 19. Lie, she's still in high school. So I was definitely more suspicious of her now. I super liked, and less than an hour later she matched and messaged me. I decided to set up a date to a fancy restaurant downtown for Sunday afternoon and told her we could head to my place afterwards. She was completely receptive and said she'd meet me there. She told our parents she was hanging out with one of her track friends and spending the night at her place. After she left, I told our parents everything and showed them all of the messages. They were pissed, and I suggested we all go to the restaurant. My dad and I just went instead and saw her sitting at a table alone, all dolled up waiting for Jim. My dad went up to her and said, "Jim's not coming," and she screamed and asked what we were doing there. I told her there was no Jim and that it was effing stupid of her to try to be meeting grown men on Tinder at that age. My dad harped onto that and lectured her about lying and meeting strange men on the internet and being so willing to go back to a stranger's place. We were a bit loud, so people were starting to look at us, and my sister eventually bursted into tears and ran out. I told my friends in a group chat the situation and they all agreed it was hysterical, except 2 of my female friends who said I was an asshole and cruel to her. My other friends defended me and said she needed to be taught a lesson. Now I've been wondering who's right and maybe if I went too far.
I feel like when your partner tells you that they want to be in an open relationship, your first instinct is to go, what the heck, no? Not me though. No, I agree. And not because I want to. I agree because I want to make people happy, even if it means making myself unhappy. My boyfriend told me that he wanted to be in an open relationship and I agreed. He tells me it's because he loves me, but he wants to make sure he loves me. But he won't know for sure until he messes around with other people. And he's not so much like asking me as he is just telling me. So whatever, if he could be in an open relationship, then so can I. So I go on this dating app, right? And I match with this guy. And on the app, we're talking, we watch documentaries together. We're actually hitting it off. But then he wanted to meet up. And I get it, that's what you do when you're in a dating app. So we meet at this club, okay? And I literally see him outside. I see him get off a motorcycle. This man is so hot. And I panic. I go into the restroom to hide for like half an hour. He catches me when I walk out. And that's The Heart Principle by Helen Huang.
Part 2. So my neighbor, I'll call him Curtis, we're really good friends at this point, but we were always attracted to each other, but because we were in Bible study together and our parents were very religious, we kind of tried to stay away from anything. One day, we're in my house chilling in my room because I knew my mom wouldn't be home for a while, so I told him to just come upstairs. We ended up eating Pop-Tarts and watching a Netflix show. The whole time I was mustering the courage to tell him that I really liked him because I really felt that I wanted to be honest with him instead of just lying to him, and the whole reason why I even got into the Bible study group was to be with him, or at least spend time with him. So finally, I just blurted it out. I said, I like you, and I like you like a lot. He just stares at me blankly, he doesn't know what to say, and I could tell that he was kind of nervous. So I said, do you like me too? He said, yes, you know that I do. And then we started making out. This was the first time I'd ever been kissed, and it was the first time I'd ever had a boy in my room by myself. I kept thinking my mom could come home at any moment, so I told him that he should go home. Suddenly we're on my bed and we're doing things that I'd never done before. Suddenly my door swings open, and guess who it is? My mom. Part 3. So my mom swings the door open and she sees us on my bed doing stuff. Of course, I'm mortified. I'm super embarrassed. I'm also embarrassed because I know how she's going to react in front of him. My mom, of course, just starts yelling her head off. Then we walk over to his house. She proceeds to tell his mom what we did. And then 5 minutes later, my dad walks into their house. I was really afraid of my dad. So now we're in their kitchen and his parents and my parents are just staring us down and telling us that what we did was completely wrong. Then my dad starts saying that we need to get married. I can tell Curtis is freaking out. Of course, I'm freaking out too. His parents actually agree that we should get married. Thankfully, my mom was completely against it and she said absolutely not, they're too young. I literally felt like I was dying. I was obviously grounded for months, couldn't go anywhere, I couldn't do anything, and I obviously didn't speak to Curtis again. Then my mom tells me that Curtis and his family actually moved away. My heart was completely broken. A few years later in college, I contacted him through Facebook. We met up and we've been together ever since. I knew that our connection back then was super strong, and it is now.
Story time about how my crazy ex-girlfriend is trying to control my life, take over my Instagram, and keeps DMing girls on Instagram to block me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So most of you know that this girl DM'd me and asked me to block her boyfriend. Well, I contacted her boyfriend, told her about it, and he told me his story time about her. I met my crazy ex last year. We actually started talking at a party. We live in the same city and have the same friends, so I knew about her. After the night I met her at the party, I decided to ask her out. I mean, she looked like a normal, sweet girl, but little did I know that she was gonna make my life miserable. So we started following each other on Instagram and exchanged phone numbers. We went to the beach and had a really nice first date. Again, super sweet girl. We went out on 3 more dates before I asked her to be my girlfriend. On the 4th date, she came over to my family's house and we had lunch. Of course, she made the best impression on my entire family. I mean, she kind of seemed like too good to be true, you know? She was super cool, easy to talk to, and really funny. The only person out of my family that did not like her was my sister. My sister told me that she got the impression she was only acting the way she thought I wanted her to act. I told her she was being paranoid and to give her a chance. So about 2 weeks into us dating, she started staying over at my apartment. But here's the thing, she basically moved in. She brought over a bag of clothes, her toothbrush, moisturizer and shit, like girly stuff that I just had no idea about. I didn't say anything to her, but in my mind I was like, whoa, this is moving a little too fast. A few days later, one of my friends had his bachelor party. So of course, I told her that I was gonna go, and she got really mad. She told me that if she couldn't go to the party, then I shouldn't go at all. I explained to her that this party had been planned for months now. She then grabbed my phone and called my friend whose bachelor party it was, and she basically asked him if she could come. My friend thought it was super weird, but eventually said yes. So my crazy girlfriend got herself invited to the bachelor party. And guess what? It was at a trip club. So she spent the entire time telling me that she was super uncomfortable and didn't let me have fun at all. I barely spent time with my friends and the bachelor because she wanted me to stay with her because she felt so uncomfortable. I asked her if she wanted to go home and she said yes. I told her I'd go get her a cab, but she started to cry and told me that I needed to leave with her too. That's when I put my foot down. I mean, for her to show up to the party was bad enough, but now she's asking me to leave? I told her I was not going to leave with her and that she needed to give me space. She started begging and crying. I couldn't believe my eyes. She had never behaved this way before. I put her into the cab and she went home. Then she ignored me for 4 days and I had to beg her to talk to me. I told my sister what was going on and my sister got really angry. She said it wasn't normal for her to be behaving that way so early into the relationship and that I shouldn't be begging her. So I stopped. A few days later, she shows up to my apartment angry because I stopped chasing her. She told me that clearly I didn't love her. Mind you, we hadn't told each other we loved each other. When I told her I didn't love her back, she started yelling and running up and down the hallway in my apartment building. I told her to calm down and one of my neighbors came outside and asked if she was okay. She ran into my apartment and pretended like nothing had happened. This is where it gets crazy. Part 2 is up.
The asshole for confiscating my daughter's glasses as a punishment. Maddie isn't blind without her glasses, but it's quite inconvenient for her. If she wants to look at her phone, for example, she'd need to have it very close to her face. Maddie was very frustrated that day, and I thought she'd learn how the other girl felt when her inhaler was gone. I gave the glasses back at the end of the day, and everything seemed okay. A few weeks later, Maddie went to spend a weekend with her father, my ex. He called me raging at what I did to my daughter. He said he wants Maddie to come and live with him. The punishment was nothing compared to what Maddie did.
Okay, so here goes another anonymous story. And for those who don't know what anonymous means, it means it's not my personal story. I dated this guy for 2 months and I ended up going to jail. When the shit hit the fan, he folded on me. I told myself I was going to get him back where it hurt. When I bailed out, he ignored me, but his older brother ended up sliding in my DMs. We kicked it for a few weeks and I pushed up on him. Long story short, we started messing around. The younger brother called me a few times blocked one day because he wanted to see me. I assumed he knew about his older brother, so I thought it was a setup. However, we finally linked up and stayed the night together. The next weekend, I was out of town and FaceTimed the older brother and said, "I miss you, Daddy." The younger brother looked into the camera and when he saw me, his jaw dropped. He was texting me nonstop, calling me all types of names, but he wanted me back. 2 years later, I'm still with the older brother and their whole family loves me.
There is definitely a moment in everyone's lives where you kind of just get thrown into a group of friends and you just have to deal with it. Like every school has the popular people, the nerds, the LGBTQ groups, and other groups like that. Anyway, when I was in high school, I was one of the nerdy kids in school and I was not popular at all. I swear everyone in my school hated me, except for my few friends. I looked weird too, which definitely did not help. I honestly had nobody to talk to, so it was the most surprising thing when one of the popular girls in school came up to me and asked me if I wanted to come to a party at her house. It was sketchy because I thought the entire school hated me, so I had literally no clue why I was getting invited to a party by one of the hottest girls in school. I immediately said yes, and she told me that the party was on the weekend and she was super excited for me to come. In my mind, I was still really confused, but the only thing I was thinking about was what I was going to wear to look swagged out at the party. Things definitely did not add up though, but I couldn't really figure out why. Follow for part 2.
My husband and I have a 3-year-old son together, and there has never been any doubt that my husband is the father. Last week, he came to me and said for the last few months he had been plagued with this anxiety that our son is not his. They don't look identical, but they definitely share similar features, and I see my husband whenever I look at my son. I was obviously blindsided by this and asked him to explain why he thought that he wasn't the father, and he couldn't really provide an answer other than a gut feeling. He asked me for a paternity test, and I said hell no. He said he could just do it without my permission, and I told him if he did that, I would never forgive him. My husband does not have a history of anxiety, but he did lose his job back at the start of the pandemic. I thought he was just stressed out, and I told him if he went to therapy and maybe started taking some anti-anxiety meds that I would consider getting the paternity test. He got upset and said that once he got the results of the test back, he wouldn't be anxious anymore. He again threatened to just get the test without my permission, and I told him that this would end our relationship. My friends and family are divided over this. Some think I should just take the test, and others are Me and my daughter used to be best friends. We did everything together, and she truly was the light of my life. But things started to change on her teens. Moodiness, lashing out, lies, etc. I just thought it had to do with her age and that she would grow out of it. I really tried everything. Family therapy, long talks about how much I loved her. None of it worked. She would either roll her eyes back or spit more of her venom. My husband works really long hours and isn't much help, to be honest. My husband is white and I am black and my daughter is mixed, but she looks white and she really takes after her father. I really don't know what I did wrong, but her dislike for me began to become pure hatred. She would question all the time how someone like me could be her mother when she was white and I was black. At some point, she demanded a DNA test, and I said sure, if she paid for it, and she was not pleased with the results. She is 17 now and began dating this white boy, and she is head over heels for him. She refused to let me meet him and told me that having a jobless N-word for a mother truly ashamed her. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I don't think I've ever experienced such pain. Long story short, I couldn't take her abuse anymore and decided to go back to my family in Cuba. My daughter couldn't be bothered.
This little girl found a secret room in her house, and y'all ain't gonna believe what she discovered. A little girl named Ava lived with her dad and her grandparents in a small town in Mississippi. One day she was playing hide and go seek with some friends when she found a secret hidden compartment up under her bed. So when she found it, she called her grandparents and they came and started recording. Right when they started recording, she pulled out like a 200-year-old map. After they started looking at the map, they realized it was the original layout of the house they was in. And on the map, it was a spot marked on the little girl Ava's room. They never knew about any other room in the house, but when Ava's dad knocked on the wall, he could tell that it was hollow from the other side. So her dad grabbed his saw and cut a hole in the wall just big enough for his daughter to fit through. When she finally got it open, she had no idea what was inside. Like this for part 2.
I have to tell you guys about my ghost experience at Disneyland. If you guys don't know me, I'm a psychic medium and spirits coming to me is just a daily thing. So this happened on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and I was with my boyfriend, and I noticed that there was this young boy that kind of sat next to me, and it was a spirit or an entity, and he was making me really uncomfortable. So I scooted over towards Drew, and he looked at me. He's like, "What's wrong?" And he knows that I do have these gifts, so he like knew something was wrong. And I was like, there's this young boy next to me, but he's really creeping me out. He's making me feel really uncomfortable. He had like black hair and his eyes were so dark. Like I couldn't tell, but they looked like they were just pure black. And Pirates of the Caribbean is known to be actually haunted. I believe they used like a real skeleton on it. And then a lot of people have spread their kids' ashes on that ride because it was their favorite ride. They've done it on like all sorts of rides. Please don't do that. They vacuum up the ashes, they dispose of them. And there are a lot of lost spirits at Disneyland. I'm not sure if that's why or what. Just isn't a good idea. Don't do it. But after I told Drew about this boy that's sitting next to me, he yelled at him and he was like, "You need to leave, like get away." Like that's basically how you're supposed to tell them to leave you alone. And the boy eventually left because I told him to leave as well. Then something weird happened. I don't know if this was just a coincidence or what this was, but it was like a few minutes later and all of a sudden the ride like stops and it breaks down. They had technical difficulties. We were stuck there in one spot for like 10 minutes. It was just really weird, that whole situation. I do have a full video on YouTube. I explain that as well as other hauntings in the park and other ghosts that came to me that day. So make sure you guys check it out on my YouTube channel if you want to see some more spooky shiz.
Am I the asshole for telling my father that his girlfriend isn't invited to my daughter's birthday party? My daughter Sarah is turning 2 in 2 weeks and her party is this Saturday. I had my father over for lunch the other day when I told him that his girlfriend Molly would not be invited to her birthday party. When he asked why, I told him that my mother would be there and that my mom is very uncomfortable with him having a girlfriend this early into their divorce. They just recently split up 2 months ago. It's not that my mother isn't comfortable with him dating, it's just that it's so early into the divorce and having to see him alone is a struggle, but having to see him with another woman is even harder. He couldn't seem to understand this, seeing that, he moved on so fast and she didn't, and he thinks that everyone should move on at his pace. And I told him I just wanted to have a civil birthday party for my daughter so that it wouldn't be awkward and nothing would be taken away from her. There would also be other children there and family, and I don't need a huge fight. That's when my father blew up on me, saying that he would only come if Molly was able to come. I told him I have nothing against Molly, and I'm perfectly fine with her, it's just I didn't want her at this specific occasion because my mom would be there and I just wanted to have a good day. So am I the asshole?
Alright, a lot of you guys are asking me for a story time video on how I found that little girl in the cave. So let's start off with this. First off, we were in Washington at Ape Cave, right there. And on the map, here's where it's located. Right there, right above Portland, Oregon. So right over there. There we go. That's where we were. And here's the whole story. We'll try to make this as fast and quick as possible. So I'm over there in Ape Cave. I went to the very end of it. Mind you, I was filming this whole thing on YouTube. A lot of these videos you're watching are off YouTube. And so we get to the very end, and the very end required you to kind of like crawl down, like completely military style, all the way to the other side, which went kind of like a few ways down. And that was our first time ever crawling in a cave. So we were all amped and going crazy, like, whoa, like this is cool. And so it's just our crew crawling all the way to the other side. It's probably about, I don't even know, maybe about like 200 feet all the way to their side crawling. which is pretty big when you're in a tight spot. Pitch black, we get to the other side where we can stand up, and at the very end, we see a little girl by herself, looking like she's from The Grudge or The Ring, just crouched in the corner, scared for her life. Immediately, I looked at everyone, I'm like, yo, there's a girl there. She scared us all, like we seen a ghost. And we start talking to her, like, hey, like, where's your parents? What are you doing? Are you stuck? She had no flashlight, and she didn't even understand what we were saying. I didn't realize it at first, but she didn't speak English. And when she said a word, it wasn't even an English word. It sounded like German or Polish. And I was like, what the hell? What are you doing here? So eventually, she followed us back out. We used the light because she couldn't see. She went in there with no light. I don't know how she even got there. When she came out, there were people, I guess, already rumored that everyone, I guess other people knew about it. Like, they were searching for a girl. I guess their parents lost their little girl. Don't know how. So we actually found the little girl and brought her back to her parents in the end. And in the end, they still didn't really understand us. They were just saying thank you and everything. And that was the whole story. So it's not fake. A lot of people are saying it's fake and it's not real and stuff like that. But trust me, guys, like, if you're new on my TikTok, you haven't seen nothing yet. Go on my YouTube channel, Exploring with Josh, or go to my Instagram. You'll see that we do crazy things and discover crazy things all the time. This is like another one in the books. This was a highlight, though. This was crazy. This was scary. I'm just glad that we were there at the right time to go there, because a lot of people don't want to go down and crawl in those tight spots. So everyone is looking for this girl, I guess, and no one went to think that she was crawling and she ended up in that corner. I don't know why or how, but it was a crazy story, and it's something I'll never forget. We were on the news outlets and things like that for this story. It was nuts, and this was like actually like 5 years ago when this happened.